Hello, everyone. This is Felix Garcia, aka the Finance Pastor, and what an honor and a privilege it is to be welcomed into your home. What an exciting week in Wall Street at the IPO for SpaceX. Officially launched on Friday, and there was a lot of enthusiasm during the morning hours, but that quickly fade away towards the end of the market. I was trading on the stock market. I got out on my options and futures play around the 11:30 hour. Just called it a day. It was a good day. I just kind of just played the day before in the upcoming days. Usually you end up making way more money during the days leading up to an IPO. Just the enthusiasm and all that money coming into the market, you start seeing a lot of people just taking profits very early, and that's what you're seeing. But you got to give it to Elon Musk. Whether you like him or whether you don't, he is the first trillionaire. Like, who would have thunk it? The first trillionaire in our lifetimes we get to experience. That means that we're going to be start seeing multi-trillionaires in the upcoming years, and this is going to be just like how we started to see billionaires when we were younger. Many in this generation are going to start seeing trillionaires and multi-trillionaires in the future, especially as the AI, as the internet keeps moving forward into what's the next thing in technology. SpaceX is one of those companies where even though the revenue doesn't match the valuation, many people are buying on what it could be. Now, one of the things you give your hats off to Elon Musk, one of the things is that he has vision. And not only that, is he takes action on that vision. There's no doubt that he's probably like a Tom Edison of our day. One would have to really look at him, or the Nikolai Tesla of our day. One can argue that he's probably one of those geniuses that are once in a lifetime type of person. We're experiencing that. Many of us kind of experience Warren Buffett. I feel like he's one of those one in a lifetime kind of true investors of our generation, where we will talk about them for years to come as a pivotal point or a pivotal person in history. So, Elon Musk, congratulations. I wish you nothing but success. And as we look at these IPOs, one would have to look at it with an eye of, okay, we closed at a 162 mark. I'll kind of look at the price. The final price, closing price, was 160.95. Where you start seeing that, okay, this is the first day. Where could this stock go? Now, one of the things that I love and that many people have never seen this before is many of the people who were insiders that bought, that had privilege to this IPO, pre-stock IPO. Many of them have very strict rules on when, how, or what money they can make actually when they sell, which is pretty unusual. How detailed. Usually they usually have like a period of maybe 180 days. Some may have 365 days before the insiders can actually sell. But there's many rules that if it's at a certain percentage, like if it has to be sold at a 30% above, you have to meet certain criteria. So I think this was a way to curve. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but to curve a lot of the movement in the market, a lot of this just the up and down, which many people are just speculating this trade. You have a lot of scalpers. You got a lot of people that are just trying to make a quick buck. And usually there's a saying in the stock market that you buy on the rumors and sell on the news. And there's a lot of people that do take advantage of that. And a lot of it, you could start seeing the movement in the options buying, in the futures buying market. You could see where one is swaying, whether up or down. And you could see that where a lot of people just really take advantage of those movements. And really the people that are the last ones to get in, are the one that usually take the brunt of it. Usually that's what you're seeing. Look at it with even with crypto. Crypto was Bitcoin was 112,000. Now it's like a 64, 65,000. Same thing with Ethereum. You bought it at 4,000, that euphoria that is going to keep going up. And what you see is of the people who bought it at 3,500, 4,000. Now they're just twiddling their thumbs, hoping, praying, believing God for it to just come right back. And perhaps it will, but you're going to be waiting for quite a long time. And we're seeing quite a bit of an assault on cryptocurrency. And you're seeing it right now. You've seen that MicroStrategy has been selling some of their Bitcoin stock just to pay off investors, and they're really taking a brunt of it. Many people, even I was a more proponent of buying the dip, and there's no more buying the dip for some people. So it's, you cautiously do that. And this is where Warren Buffett's really quote is really uh, it's pivotal for a trader, which is, if you're not willing to hold long term and ride the waves of a specific stock, an investment, then you should not be investing in it. That's pretty much investing 101. There has been stocks that I bought that I have said, all right, I'm gonna just ride the wave. And what you start seeing, that certain those stocks, if you just give it a little bit of time, they do come back. And I know there's many people that make fun of it. There's certain stocks that don't come back. And that's where you have to see what you're investing in. There's certain stocks that have good futures, they have technology, or they have something that is of benefit to society. And that's where you decide what kind of stocks, what are the best ones to invest in. And then you start seeing over time you can invest in very good stocks. And then when you hear those older folks or seasoned folks, like I like to say, and you hear them say, I'm living off my dividends, it's because they play the long-term game. There's many people that want overnight type of money. And when you start seeing that, if you play the long-term game, you buy stocks overnight, one by one, through time, have a 1 to 5 year plan. You start seeing that many of you here in a 5 and a 10 and a 20-year plan will have a lot of good stock in your portfolio. SpaceX is one of those stocks that it could be one of those good stocks of the future. One of the things that's going to bring SpaceX to the forefront is going to be the technology of Starlink. I don't know about people living in outside of planet Earth. That part is way beyond my scope of intelligence. I'm not that smart. I'm a C student. But one of the things that I do understand is that as Elon Musk has built stuff, there has always been something of a discovery that maybe might not be used in planet, but can be a really reliable source or resource on Earth. There are many things that Elon Musk has discovered while building other things that has really been a benefit to society. That's what I'm believing. Now, the one thing that I do love about SpaceX, and this is the balance, and this is when you look at being a follower of Christ and you look at, okay, I want to invest biblically, but I'm also, how do I balance that where I want to be of the spirit, but I also want to use my brain. And one of the things that we looked at is cryptocurrency. I talk about this, that the Bible talks about in the end, we will all come to a one world order type of thing, where the currency, the marketplace, all that's going to be aligned together. Well, you need to connect the whole world in order to this to happen. God, the second coming of Jesus will not happen up to all have heard the gospel. And there's still remote countries that have not yet heard the gospel. Thankful for those missionaries that are still called to those places. And I'm so thankful that God is releasing these missionaries. And I have many friends that are doing missions in the Amazon, in many far places in Africa. And they are preaching and bringing the good news to many people that have never heard the gospel. And we start seeing that Starlink is one of those things that can connect everyone. That is the future. Okay, I want you to listen to, this is one of the things I want to share with you guys. I want you to listen the insight of this guy and why I love about what Elon Musk.
Now that SpaceX is a public company, having completed the largest IPO in history, there are several key dates coming down the road that investors need to be aware of, especially if you bought the stock on its IPO date. And they have everything to do with the lockup expiration period. That's a period of time before any insiders, employees, executives, or early investors can sell their shares. Typically, public companies have a 180-day lockup expiration period. But like a lot of other rules, SpaceX has bent these rules to allow for a staggered lockup expiration period. And those dates are coming at us quickly. August 11th, that is the date of SpaceX's second quarter earnings call. 20% of stock can be sold by insiders on that day. And then another 10% can be sold if the stock trades 30% or higher than its IPO price for 5 to 10 consecutive days. And then there's a bunch of staggered expiration periods that are coming at the 70-day mark, the 90-day mark, the 105-day mark, 120, and 135-day marks. What about Elon Musk, who owns 40% of SpaceX shares and is now a trillionaire? Well, he can't sell any stock until June 12th, 2027, 366 days after today's IPO. Now that SpaceX is a public company having...
I love the insight of that. And check out this. I love John Ehrlichman. He's got a great insight on just a lot of things, on insight on just investing for the long term. So I really, if there's anyone that I recommend, I like him just because if you're a numbers person and if you play the long game, you'll do very well.
SpaceX is going public in what could be the biggest IPO in history. Here are 3 things to know about the business. Number 1, Starlink is the growth driver. SpaceX spent years developing rocket technology, including its reusable rockets. All that time and energy set the stage for what has become its biggest business, launching satellites into space and providing internet service. That business is continuing to grow quickly, and eventually it's expected to be offering phone service. Number 2, Starship is key to future growth. It's SpaceX's mega rocket. And as the company needs to take more and more into space, Starship will be doing the heavy lifting. And Elon Musk has talked about manufacturing as many as 10,000 a year. And number 3, AI. Musk has already merged his XAI artificial intelligence business with SpaceX, in part because the massive computing power required for AI cannot just be served by Earth's resources over the long term. AI data centers in space might seem strange today, but they could be commonplace in the future. Those are 3 things to know about SpaceX's business. SpaceX is going public in what could be the biggest IPO.
Now, that is interesting. One of the reasons why that's interesting to me is this. Rockets in the spaceship, satellites, when the coming of television, many of the saints that started Christian television programs were excited because of how many people they could reach. This is incredible if Elon can figure out, and this is the key to this. I'm going to get off the screen. If Elon can figure out how to use the resources, take off my headphones for this. If Elon Musk can figure out how to use the resources in space, and that's key, like Meteor, the power that it takes to generate that stuff. If he can figure out how to power this with the meteorites and all the elements in space, then this is probably will be a $5 trillion company over the long term. I listen to some of these things and I've wondered, all right, from a biblical standpoint. I'm going to go from the investor in a second, but from a biblical standpoint, there's certain things that God has to usher in before his second coming. There's many people that God is using. Not all of them are saved, but God uses who he pleases. God uses you and I, when none of us are perfect. But God is using this genius to usher in many of the things to use for the coming of Christ. In order to connect the whole world, you need satellites, the internet. That is going to make this a global currency. That's why I look at cryptocurrency as one thing that is a unifier for the whole world. When you trade the futures market, it's a global market. The U.S. stock market just focuses mostly on U.S. investors. You get people from the outside that invest in the U.S. stock market. But when you start focusing on futures market, you start seeing that all this brings us all together. And that's where crypto, in my opinion, falls. What do you need to power all this? Well, we're not making nuclear power. That's the key, is we don't have enough power. And if you start making or building nuclear power, it'll take it about 7 to 10 years to build one. And you have multiple going at the same time. So this is where you look at, okay, can Elon Musk really find higher power? You know, that's kind of funny saying that, but more through space and house these data centers in. Could this be a possibility? It could. Could it be a fantasy? It also can be too. But you never know. What we might think might be just crazy and nutty, and it turns out to be true. Think of the people that only knew a horse and a buggy. And when the car came out, they were like, this can't be last. This can't be true. This can't. And look at us now. We look at all this technology. We said the same thing about satellites. Why we have television all over the world. The reason why we could transmit live television from one part of the world to the other part is because of satellites. That's where Starlink and SpaceX, I believe, is going to be the innovator. And I really do believe what Elon Musk says, that there hasn't been a new person that's entered this space. And I think just like everything, Elon Musk is coming to disrupt the space. Now, one thing about Tesla to me is, I don't know about the electrical car. I'm not a fan of it. I love my gas guzzler. But one of the things that I love about Tesla is if they could figure out the robo-taxi, that's where this stock could be one that one can look at this stock and say, I want to invest in Tesla long term. But if you're just looking at the electrical vehicle as just the proponent for this company, you're going to lose money all the time. You have to look at the technology. If you go to a place like a Las Vegas, Phoenix, you start using companies like Waymo. A lot of those companies have technology that is using driverless vehicles. I've already written a few of those, and I really believe this is the wave of the future. I believe that we're going to get to the place in the future where no one needs a driver's license because we're all going to be chauffeured through these cars. And I really believe that is the future, maybe 20 to 35 years or maybe sooner. But that is the wave of the future, and that is going to happen. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen next with SpaceX. This company is going to have a lot of topsy-turvies, but if you're playing for the long term, and that's the key. And that's why I put John Ehrlichman, because if you look at IPOs and you play the long term, sometimes that is the right play. So until next time, I hope you guys are doing phenomenal. Talk to you next time and see you guys.